So, Chris, at Roosevelt University, you majored in finance and some fine arts. What was the impetus? What were your thoughts on what you wanted to do with that degree? What were your plans for your life at that time?
Well, of course, I've always been a musician and an artist. Those are my interests. However, I went to school to make sure that I could support myself, so I studied finance.
Right.
And then I wanted to make sure I had a, sound business foundation no matter what I did. But so those were my thoughts. But I had one of the best art teachers. She was her name was Lynn. I can't remember her last name, but she was the curator at the Art Institute, and I got a thorough education from her about art history and art in general. And so I added that to my already interest that I had in art, and I added that knowledge to the things that I had been doing before, and that's helped shape me and get me into the situation I'm in today.
So, from finance and fine arts to urban planning, how did that connect for you?
Well, when I got back from when I was at Roosevelt University, one of my favorite teachers was a guy named Jeffrey Edwards, and he taught a class in urban planning, and I that actually was my favorite teacher. And after I read I took the urban planning class, I was fascinated, and it just was in the back of my mind after that. So I just carried that throughout the years, for a few years, in that gap between when I had my bachelor's degree and when I got my master's degree. So when it came time to do my master's degree, I said, I was looking around for things I was interested in. I looked at law, that was about the only other thing I was interested in. And then I said, well, in law you have to be licensed in the state to practice to practice, and I knew that I wasn't the type of person who would probably be able to stay in one state forever. So I thought, for other various reasons, urban planning intuitively seemed exciting to me.
I love urban planning. I went to school also for urban planning, and the school I went to discontinued the curriculum as soon as I arrived. Terrible. So I had to be a civil engineer, industrial engineer, etc. It was a mess. But so University of Illinois at Chicago for your master's degree in urban planning. How did that sort of shape? When you went in, did you learn what you thought you were going to learn? How did that impact you?
Well, my focus is commercial corridor revitalization and economic development. That was I wanted to, again, I don't go to school to just take soft things like community development or psychology. I figure if I'm going to pay for a degree, it's going to be in something quantitative rather than qualitative. So I decided to take, in urban planning, one of the most quantitative things you could do there was economic development. So I studied economic development, and then as I was writing my master's thesis, it just dawned on me, I just came up with this program where I realized that, the things I had been studying, I realized I could, use my art background in an urban planning setting and combine the two. I'd always been interested as a kid. I would skateboard, play the guitar, and then I would be out on the street doing graffiti tags and things like that. So I had a street art background. Mm-hmm. Then I had a fine art history and fine art background, mostly in the history of art. Mm-hmm. And then I combined that with the urban planning. I realized that I could use my art skills in my field of focus study, which was commercial corridor revitalization, And I've been doing that ever since. It grew out of my master's thesis. I came up with something called the Bronzeville Legends Initiative in my master's thesis. And the Bronzeville Legends Initiative is a art and urban planning program designed to, affect the neighborhood and the things that I wanted to do. I can go on and explain if you'd like.
Feel free.
Okay. So, the Bronzeville Legends Initiative is it's an art program, but it's what I call cultural economic development. So I'm practicing what's called destination economics. So in destination economics, the basic pillars of solid community development from an economic development point are identity, sustainability, and mobility. So the first one is identity. Identity is whatever makes a neighborhood unique, whatever about the neighborhood, whatever special quality it has. It could be based on the neighborhood's location. It could be based on, the neighborhood having a sporting arena. But often it's based on the neighborhood's cultural identity. So, for instance, if I bring up the word Chinatown, you can imagine in your mind this area of Chicago where you can go to experience some semi-authentic and semi-authentic Chinese culture. And because you have a picture of Chinatown's identity in your mind, that leads to sustainability or economic development, because once you understand what a neighborhood has to offer, it draws you over there. So now I can go on Sunday to Chinatown for dim sum. I can go to Greektown and get an experience of Greek culture. I can go to Argyle and get an experience of Vietnamese culture. I can go to Devon Avenue and get an experience of Indian culture. I could go to 26th Street and get a Mexican experience, or somewhere in Pilsen. So these are based on this economic development is based on ethnic identity. And so what I've noticed is that all African Americans are clear contributors and basically the culture creators of the United States. Yet every city I'm in, there's a Chinatown, there's a Greek town, there's an Indian town, but I don't ever see any African American towns, except for, low-income communities or where people have been, who are suffering from years of deprivation caused by this society. People are in those kind of ghettos, quote unquote. But I didn't see anybody, despite all the contributions of African Americans to American culture, and I didn't see anybody leveraging that in a community. I didn't see any black towns per se. So I realized Bronzeville's rich historical legacy made it quite possibly the most amazing center of African American arts, culture, and entertainment that America has, in America. And so I realized that sort of in my thesis, and then so I started working on highlighting Bronzeville's identity. And by highlighting Bronzeville's identity and letting other people get a clear picture of what Bronzeville is about, its rich historical legacy, then that will lead to sustainability in the form of economic development, because it draws people over here to see what Bronzeville is all about. What I'm afraid of is that Bronzeville will just become the South Loop. If you're not an urban planner, what a lot of people don't, some politicians don't seem to understand, when you let regional and national businesses come into a neighborhood, the neighborhood begins to look like every other neighborhood, and it no longer has any unique characteristics to sell. So you are killing your community by not highlighting what it has to offer. So to let Starbucks and all these other companies, McDonald's, and Subway, any of these companies come into this to Bronzeville without any kind of style book, without imposing any kind of, saying to them, hey, you have to conform to a degree to this community's identity because we're trying to position this as a center for African American arts, culture, and entertainment. That's what I'm doing here. So I'm highlighting Bronzeville identity with the Bronzeville Legends Initiative, and that's called highlighting its distinctiveness. From highlighting its distinctiveness, I hope to increase its drawing power from neighborhoods around it. A successful community has drawing power. It brings in people from outside the neighborhood. It has depth of penetration. It penetrates far. A successful community penetrates far. Its depth of penetration, its drawing power is far. So, from far away. So we've got our highlighting our distinctiveness to increase its drawing power and its depth of penetration. And then that helps deal with its demand programming, meaning a successful community a successfully economically developed community attracts people both during the day and at night. And then, so we've got our distinctiveness, our drawing power, our depth of penetration, our demand programming, and then we want to increase our duration of stay. Economically, from an economic development point, I want people on these commercial corridors to chill for a while, to come and linger, to not just drive by on the bus, to not just drive by in their cars. I want them to get out of their cars and spend some time on these, that helps increase retail sales per square foot on the corridor because, if I come out and look at these murals, then maybe I'll wander on over to Pearls here and get myself some coffee or something to eat. So this is a trap, like artists set traps. This is an attention trap that I've set here. It's designed to do all those things. So that's how I'm combining the art with urban planning. I've used my artistic skills to curate this series of photos from 1 Million Black Voices by Richard Wright, by the photographers Russell Lee and Edwin Roscom, and I'm recreating these rich historical, to highlight Bronzeville's rich historical legacy, and leveraging these to strengthen Bronzeville's identity. And so I had to use my artistic skills to recreate these. I'm looking to put I see a lot of cartoonish murals. I'm looking to bring more of a fine art quality to the murals. To me, the mural, anything, people just think just because it's big and colorful, it's a great mural. I see a lot of sloppy murals with not a lot of detail. And what I'm trying to do is a whole other thing. What I like about doing photo murals, which I do a lot, is the level of detail and the fine art quality that they give. Those big cartoonish murals aren't necessarily always appropriate on the commercial corridors that I'm working with. So that is what I'm trying to do.
Well, you're doing a wonderful job, by the way. I am so impressed with your knowledge of history. I am also a historian. I also work in real estate, a commercial developer. I understand how important history is. I understand how cities transform in ways that are not necessarily beneficial to people of African descent. And I think you're noticing some things about certain neighborhoods in Chicago that should be pointed out and doing something about it, which is what a lot of people don't do. Using all of their tools and skills to do something about what you see. I'm going to have you get up a little bit, and I want to sort of walk this corridor and talk to me about this particular picture and why you decided on this.
Okay, well, one thing I always do too is it's always a collaborative effort when it comes to these images. First thing I did, I got with the people who are involved in the ownership and management of this building, and they liked what I had done over at the Mariano's grocery store, and they asked me to bring in a similar style. So I went through an archive of photos with them, and I said, let's all do this collaboratively. We're going to go through these photos. We're going to pick out our favorite photos, and then out of those, I'll pick out the ones I like, and then I'll do them. And so I started with this collection from 1941 by Edwin Roscom and Russell Lee. It's a public domain collection. There's no restrictions on it, and it's a beautiful set of images, and there are many more than this, and I just thought this is perfect way to highlight Bronzeville's identity. Especially what I love about these is that most of my other images are of famous people: Muhammad Ali, the congressman, Nat King Cole, Louis Armstrong. These are average, everyday people in this community. So we first went through a large set of the archive, and then I narrowed them down to about 25, 26 pictures, and this is, I think, 10. Then I chose the 10 that I liked best.
Okay.
And so this particular picture I liked because of the girl and the little girl with the ice cream cone, and then I believe this was her mom. It's just the perfect setting to me. It's obviously taken, all these pictures were taken right in the community, right around here, within a few blocks from here. I like how everybody is walking the other way, and these two are walking this way. It's like a memory wall. It's like as if they're coming out of the image, the photograph, and so looking at us like we're there with them. So it's like a bridge between us and them, between the present and the past. And so there's something in art called the beholder share. Art, this says that only a portion of the image is the artist, but it's how the person relates with that image and completes it. The beholder, the person looking at it, completes the picture and contributes the other 50% to the work. So what I like about it is it's interactive. I think a lot of muralists are out to just look how impressive I am. Look at my great technique. Look at I can fill this with all kind of stuff. My murals attract, or what we call, they invite participation because of the coolness of them. In terms of they connect, because I'm not coming at it from trying to overly impress you with how great I am. I'm trying to make a human connection with you. So that's what I like. It's the human connection in this one.
That is beautiful. I am so happy we came out here to see this and have you talk about it, not on a picture, but right here in front of it. Let's take a walk to the next mural. And I'm so happy that they called you to do this. I think they see how passionate you are about this work, and really what you bring to the community by introducing these pictures to all of us. And I'm hoping that this video cast will bring more people to come and see these. It's straight tours of this.
And I'm sure it will. So exactly. So I'm trying to do a lot of things here. One thing I notice about people is that, so President Roosevelt at the time, he was pushing his New Deal politics. He was creating New Deal, social programs that had heretofore never existed. So he sent out photographers on working for the Farm Security Administration and the WPA, and their job was to go out and document poverty in the United States, so they could actually show a need for these public works and this public money and the programs he was trying to implement. So he originally sent these two Farm Security Administration photographers down here, and they were hoping they probably were going to see, we're just going to see a bunch of poverty and stuff. But no, what astonished me, when they got down here, they saw a whole bunch of dignified people. And so if you look at how everybody's dressed, even people hanging out on the public thoroughway are wearing hats. Now, every one of these guys has on a hat. a shirt with a collar. This guy's got like a Captain Rip,
Yes.
right here. These are some sharp guys, okay? And this is what made me appeal to me about this picture. So in my own way, it's my own kind of subtle message to, people today, just to remember, we came from style,
And we're still stylish.
And we're still stylish.
There you go. I'm going to have us walk back down to this one down here, which I think is really lovely. Just the one person in the shot here. And we picked an interesting day. They're doing some kind of movie inside of this building here.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope they get a chance to feature your murals somehow in it as well. They should be talking to you about that, though.
Yeah, they should. That would be good.
Talk to me about this. This is brilliant to me. I just love it. Tell me about this.
Okay.
And why you picked this.
Well, what I loved about this picture, of course, one thing, of course, is, it's a bridge between the past and the present. If you don't know, you can't get where you're going if you don't know where you've been. So one thing that I love just from an artistic detail is that, these bricks from and it looks like the brick pattern goes with the brick pattern here. So this almost looks like organic, like it could really happen here. That's one thing. But what I love, of course, the most is this central figure of this Bronzeville kid reading a comic book right here on this step. I just love it. It's just a really poignant picture. It makes me speechless sometimes just looking at this. It's just a beautiful image, and that's why it's the first one in the series.
So this was number 1 in the series, so that's good to know.
This is the first one in the series that I chose, yeah.
Got it. Wow. Yeah. That's fantastic.
It starts here 1 and goes down 10. It's from 1 to 10. So it's like reading from left to right.
Got it.
Like we read.
Got it. So talk to me while we're standing here about sort of your first commissioned piece, or the first piece that you did, whether it was commissioned or not. And where was it? How old were you? How did that come about? So the first thing that you saw out in Bronzeville that just really set you going.
Well, the first thing I did, besides the tagging that I used to do when I was younger, I was a graffiti artist. I called myself Dank. And so I just run around tagging my name all the time.
Okay.
But the first mature thing I did, where I was actually thinking, was on 43rd and King Drive, there was just this giant wall there on the old medical building there on the corner of 43rd and King Drive, the east corner, southeast corner. And at the time, I was working for Centers for New Horizons as a research assistant.
Okay.
And Centers for New Horizons owned this building. And so I had just written my master's thesis, and I said to the director of Centers for New Horizons, hey, I'd like to start my master, some of these things I've created on this wall. I'd like to start right here. And so that's when the process began. He furnished me with one of his staff members, and we went around for the next year just talking to people. I spent a year just talking to stakeholders, holding community meetings. This was in 2015. 2016, holding community meetings and describing the project. And I went to the Jacob Carruthers Center. I spoke at IIT. I spoke at churches, just talking to people and seeing because I believe in what's called community-led or community participatory placemaking in art. I don't just come into your community and drop a giant rooster or a giant, and trying to express myself with a giant whatever these people are putting up that has nothing to do with the identity of the community. I came in with some respect and talked to people for literally a year before I put up the first anything. And we had a meeting, and then the people voted. And I said, what do you want? And they voted out of all these Bronzeville legends, and they wanted Nat King Cole. So that's when I then started, adopting, and I started looking in photo archives and basing what I wanted to do off of what's in the photo archives, but adopting them and editing them and cutting them and doing them, making my own artistic impression of them. And so the first one was at 43rd and King Drive. On that corner, it's a giant Nat King Cole, and he's like this, and one can assume that he's playing the piano. Nat King Cole was the first African American to have a national TV show in America. He inspired all the Rat Pack and all of them. They got a lot of how they sang. And Dean Martin, a lot of these people, they were listening to Nat King Cole. He was really a really cool and talented musician. Lived here in Bronzeville, went to Dunbar High School.
His house has a landmark in front of it. I did my master's thesis highlighting the black, sort of the dignitaries that got the markers on their houses there, and how many of them we don't even know who they are. We don't know those houses. Those houses are not respected. And so what you're doing here is really next level thinking. It's really top of the line investigative work, history, it's archiving, it's, you are really sort of what everyone needs to think about when they're developing anything, anywhere in the country. They should have a viewpoint like yours as to how important it's going to be for a neighborhood. How do you integrate these, whatever it is you're going to build or develop into the neighborhood with art?
Exactly, because I've done other programs. So this particular program in Bronzeville, I decided that what I wanted to highlight, it's always the same. I want to highlight the neighborhood's identity. I did one in Hyde Park called Hyde Park Heroes, where instead of highlighting the identity, the past historical identity of Hyde Park, I went out and I took original photographs of regular residents of Hyde Park, and I made murals out of those.
Nice.
So then I also did something in Chatham, the Chatham 2.0 initiative, and how I highlighted the identity there is I focused on positive people who came out of there, Chance the Rapper, Common, people like that, as to highlight. So I've got, I come up with a different program for every community. I call this like Bronzeville's family photo album. It would be like, to me, we could go and just paint and do this stuff that people do with these, coming out, making these cartoonish things that they do. Or we could do like a memory wall artist or a collective memory art project. And we could go to your house and we could go through your family photos. And we could pull out photos of your great-great-grandmother and your great-uncle, things like that. And then we could put those throughout the house. We could put those on the side of your house, on your garage, and create a collective memory project that would have a lot more impact, obviously, than sometimes it's just about uncovering treasures rather than, I think rather than, and don't get me wrong, I've got lots of original stuff that I do, but sometimes I think that, uncovering treasures also is important.
Well, it's also uncovering treasures of people of African descent is critical because we had such low respect for our own artifacts and our own history. To uncover them really brings it back to life. And that's what's so important right now as we're thinking about Black Lives Mattering. Again, like you said, we have to know our history to respect what's going to happen next and to make sure that those things move forward. But sometimes we don't even have our own history, so unpacking and uncovering those.
Well, see, and
so
that's
important.
another thing. Just on a basic level, images are the number one. I mean, we can talk about this on so many different levels. Just from a purely propaganda perspective, I'm trying to counteract the negative images that are offered up in the corporate media of the South Side of Chicago, where the focus is always on the negative. And I'm trying to highlight the positive things that I know will come out of this South Side. I've had parties at friends' houses. It's been 1 or 2 in the morning, and I've told them, look, I can't drive. I'm pretty having too much fun here. Can you drive me home? And they're afraid to drive me home to Hyde Park. And I'm like, dude, you have got to see Hyde Park. It's beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful neighborhood in the city. But their perceptions of the South Side have been shaped by the whatever they have, to the extent that they wouldn't even drive me home. And then the next day, they saw me walking down the street. They drove down here during the day to this general area, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's so nice down here." That's the kind of that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to help out people with. So yeah, I'm trying to counteract the negative perceptions of the city.
Again, you're doing a wonderful job. You're doing a wonderful job.
So I see myself as a South Sider, and I'm down here helping out Chicago. I mean, the city, but I'm a Chicagoan as well, and I'm helping, or just doing my little bit for Chicago.
Well, I'm hoping that you're able to do that for every South Side, West Side community. I hope they all commission you to do this work, because it's so important to have some cohesiveness, sort of what you're doing here. Really, this is your mark. I mean, we know who you are when we see these. We know this is your work, and hopefully it says so much about what Chicago is and does. I think you should be doing this in every community.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because one of the unfortunate things is that, when the city puts out these art grants, as other artists have said, what has been considered art has shrunk to where it just consists of this painting, which I like painting, I paint, but if you're not just coming out and making a whole lot of colors and bringing in 30 people then they don't want to give you an art grant. It's astonishing to me. I apply for these grants for the city of Chicago. They're putting out these neighborhood grants, and they're giving them all to people without a background in urban planning, without a thorough knowledge of art history, and just a lot of self-expression. And I personally think that art needs to grow up a little bit and use the talent, the natural talent that artists have in the self-expression, and use it to help out and help the community. And I'm hoping down the road that people will realize, the city and other people will realize the quality of the work, and because I'm bringing more of a European and a New York Duchampian thought process, a modern art thought process to this, kind of things. And so I think that people maybe need to catch up just a little bit. And so, in a sense, that if you talk about it from a purely art sense, Duchamp created what's called the ready-made. The ready-made was when he took objects like bicycle wheels and other things, and he took objects that already existed and recontextualized them by placing them in a museum. So from an artistic point of view, these photographs could be seen as ready-mades. These are, they're there for anybody to use. And we have all these archivists and historians who just, go through these every day. And I'm amazed that I'm the only one who thought of, hey, maybe we could use this to, our advantage and leverage some of this identity, or other ways we could play with these images. So, yeah, I'm hoping that what I do, but on the other hand, what the nonprofits have not, in the city has not done, the corporate interests recognize what I'm doing. And I keep getting big corporate, projects. So,
Well, that's a blessing.
So, yeah,
that's a blessing, because I feel like there shouldn't be a black developer, and I'm on the track now where we're buying retail centers and working with others to build other things. There shouldn't be a developer, certainly of color, who shouldn't be using you and maybe your team and maybe your, sort of network of others to add value culturally to these spaces, especially if they're building and developing and buying in urban corridors, in black neighborhoods. So everyone should be using you. I think I recognize sort of the whole, city of Chicago sort of valuing sort of your work in a different way. And, I think they have.
Now, the aldermen understand what I'm doing. The aldermen of all these neighborhoods I've been dealing with, they've all been very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Alderman Dowell, Alderman King. I worked with her on the Mariano's. Dowell, she helped me get started. Dowell was the person who helped me get the grant for a lot of the stuff that I've been doing.
Nice.
The aldermen understand what I'm doing, but it's the city planning department or whoever puts out those art grants. I have sent emails up to the top guy like, look, man, you are giving out these grants to people, and I'm not trying, but hey, can we expand our understanding a little bit, of art? But I have done 10,000 square foot of retail in Pullman at 111th and Doty. I did the same thing that I've done here. I used 5 historical photos and did windows, huge windows, at 10,000 square feet of retail called North Pullman Court in Pullman. I did the Pullman, A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum mural. I did the Mariano's grocery store from King Drive to Rhodes, the entire city block. There's these types of photos from the same collection up there. I did the fence, a block-long 260-foot fence from 39th to 38th. I did that for Mariano's here in the neighborhood. I work with record companies. I've done construction companies in New York. I'm working with a large record company and management company today. So it seems like some people do understand me. It's I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why, but I don't know what's going on. I don't understand. But I seem to have problems with some of the nonprofits and some of the the cities not quite understanding what's happening. I worked with Hyde Park, one of Hyde Park's largest real estate developers. They hired me to do the identity project I did in Hyde Park.
Wow.
The people in Chatham, they're a large real estate developer. They hired me, so they understand what I'm doing.
I think it takes time for people to understand passion and art. Some people don't get it. I will tell you, I'm not an artsy person myself. I've become more of a historian and, became an archivist as well, but I was very numbers oriented and didn't understand how this mural or this sculpture is going to be impressive or helpful. And over time, I realized the power that you have, the passion that you have. It shows, it brings people to community, like you're saying. It advances the community, it advances thought, it makes people think. And it's going to do exactly what you said it's going to do, I believe. These neighborhoods are changing dramatically, but
it does do it. Just a couple weeks ago, 350 Girl Scouts and their parents showed up on Juneteenth to this commercial corridor here, to look at these images.
Yeah.
And they went also and did a tour of a lot of the other images. This is science. It's not, destination economics is real. So yes.
You're transforming minds, young minds.
Right.
They're going to share that information with their children. That's one of the things that is missing from a lot of, sort of black families and black students is the learning of history of your neighborhood, but also just black history in general. This might spur some additional thought to think about them being historians.
Well, with the Girl Scouts, they all walked down this, and then they came across right here, and there was just hundreds of them. It was just the greatest experience.
Wow.
And there was a sense of continuity between them because on one of the images down there, there's girls skipping rope. And in the picture with the girl skipping rope, there's one of the fence posts, there's a brownie hat. A Girl Scout hat. And so this is 2021, that's 1941, is 80 continuous years of the Girl Scouts.
Wow.
So one of our things was, hey Girl Scouts, can you find the brownie in these pictures?
Wow.
And so when you're dealing with young kids, 8, you have to tell them, you don't get in too deep about President Roosevelt and all that. I tried, but then their eyes sort of glass over a little bit, and so then you go, well, you know what, there's a brownie hat and then you call, it's a photo hunt.
Right.
Let's go look at some photos, and then you ease them into some Black history, and then basically they just see themselves depicted. There's a lot of,
the girl with the
girls
yeah,
here.
yeah, exactly.
And so
yeah.
there's a lot of girls looking out, and it's so yeah.
And the young boy here. Where can we find you, Chris? Give us your social media, your website. Where can people find you?
Okay, you can find me on Instagram at Chris, CHRIS _ Devins, DEVINS _ You can find me at my website, chrisdevinscreative.com. And you can find me on Facebook, Chris Devins, or the Bronzeville Alliance Facebook group.
Bronzeville Alliance.
I work with a large Facebook group that has over 5,000 members, and also my Bronzeville Legends Initiative Facebook page has over 2,500. So we've got a community there of maybe 7,500 like-minded individuals discussing all kind of issues related to Bronzeville. But so yeah, my website, Chris Devins Creative, my IG, Chris _Devins _, and my two Bronzeville Alliance Facebook group and Bronzeville Legends Initiative Facebook page.
Chris, thank you so much for your work. I'm proud of you for just having the initiative to get this done. Many people have ideas, but you've executed those ideas to improve Chicago, to improve Bronzeville, and to improve Black lives. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming on Transforming Urban and telling us about your work. And I want to thank Paula Robinson for making the recommendation. So thank you, Paula.
And thank you for doing this this Transforming Urban program and this whole topic, and this I really appreciate it, and giving people like me and you a forum to present our ideas. It's a great show you're doing here.
Thank you.